Hi, I'm Karen Walker with Laugh Yourself Into Stitches, and today I am at Lois Sew and Back, and I'm sharing techniques for a pre-class for my farmer's wife sampler quilt. But you don't have to be a farmer to watch this class. It is all about getting prepared to piece a new project because it is specific to the farmer's wife. I am sharing 3 different samples here of the farmer's wife. Well, whether you're going to farm or not is up to you. But this class is a prep class for any quilting, and I'm just really happy to be here at Lois Sew and Back because their new location is awesome, and it really lends to doing some great classroom work. This is the book that we're working on in The Farmer's Wife, and it is 111 6.5-inch unfinished blocks. There are different Farmer's Wife books or variations of this out there, but this is the original one. And Lori Erin Hurd, who is the author, her method in here is all hand piecing with templates. I noticed that a lot of people bought this book. It was very exciting back in 2009, and then all of a sudden they went, oh crap, templates, and shelved it. So I decided that it would be really fun to just offer modern rotary cutting methods, and as a result of it, not only are you making a farmer's wife quilt, you're actually learning as you go. The first thing I wanted to talk about, following my little outline, is fabric selections. The first thing I want to talk about is contrast. Picking out fabrics can be difficult for a lot of people, and contrast is really going to make the block stand out or not. An example of waste of time, in my opinion. In the class 2, I have a runner. You can make a runner, and it's set on point. I can even tell. Set on point, and actually I used this as a balance in my kitchen years ago. And so I'm picking out these fabrics, blah, 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 and I'm setting them and everything. Get it all finished, and the white sashing that I put around each block doesn't showcase the block. It just gets lost. I mean, people go, oh no, it's fine, it's cute. No, you put that much work into these blocks and then it just disappears. So I'm really good about showing you what doesn't work. You know, I was looking at those fabrics close up going, oh, that looks really pretty together. But then stand back and waste of time. So it became a curtain balance, and it was lovely. And if you're going to be making the farmer's wife blocks, and some of these blocks have 49 pieces in that. So don't let that scare you away. Don't let that scare you away. It can be done. If you're going to put that much work into a block, you want it to be, you want those fabrics to stand out. So that's the number one thing. And I've got a couple samples right here of things that don't really contrast well together. It just, when you step back away from the fabrics, you don't see the variation as much as you would like. Sometimes fabrics look really great when you're looking at them closely. They really look nice, and that's what happened in this block. I really like the 2 fabrics together, but when I stand back, it kind of gets lost. Those blue star points don't stand out like I had hoped they would, and so, but I'm a slow learner. This is my 4th farmer's wife quilt, and look what I did it again. And no matter how much you love the 2 fabrics, put them up on a design board and stand back and see if they really stand out together, or if they blend too much and you get lost. Contrast can also be a small print or a large print. Sometimes they can play well together. So when you're looking at fabrics, consider those. And directional fabrics. The farmer's wife has a lot of pieces in it, and if you're one of these people that have to have all the stripes heading in one direction, you may not want to tackle directional fabrics when you're making this quilt, because there's so many little pieces, it'll drive you crazy. But if you're like me, I like directional fabrics, and I can throw them in, and I don't really care. I took a class back in the early 2000s, and it was an applique class. It all had blues and golds and obviously sort of my favorite colors. And the owner of the shop, Tony Lynn, said, you might want to pull in something that will make it sparkle. And she pulled a kind of a brighter green, which Kimberly would love because she's all into lime green, but it was a brighter green I would have never picked out to put in my quilt, and it makes the quilt quilt because it doesn't read flat. When you get all the same sort of value and color going, it kind of becomes flat and not that interesting. When you throw in, and not a lot, you just have it popped once in a while, it really adds a little bit more to that. So even if you're struggling with fabric selection, you can, come in and talk to a shop owner and ask them, here's my fabrics, what can I add to it to make it sort of pop a little bit. So that's something to think about when you're picking out fabrics. And if you're doing the Farmer's Wife class, there's two thoughts. You're either going to go completely scrappy, which is what I did with my first Farmer's Wife, or you're going to pick out a line of fabric that you really like. And if you pick out a line of fabric that you like and you want to complete this Farmer's Wife using that line, you might want to purchase your borders and your sashing and your setting triangles and all of that when you're purchasing at the very beginning, because if you wait a year or even two, you won't find that fabric line anymore. If you are going scrappy, don't buy your sashing and your cornerstones and your setting triangles and your border yet. Wait until a lot of your blocks, I would say class 7 or 8, before you go and purchase those border fabrics or whatever, because in my experience, I started thinking, okay, this is what it's going to look like and this is the direction I'm going. By the time I got to class 8, the quilt had taken on a life of its own, and the fabric that I picked out to go with the border didn't work. So don't waste your money on picking out a border if you're going to do scrappy. Wait until the quilt is 7 or 8 months into it, and then you'll kind of know what to do. So that's about fabric selection. Preparing fabrics. Okay, there's two thoughts, and I'm sure you've all heard this before. It's either pre-wash everything or don't wash anything. So how many pre-wash? 2, 3,
Depends.
3?
Depends.
Okay, depends. Well, I'm a no washer because I don't like all that tangled mess and all that thread and ironing and all that. If you're not going to pre-wash, you do have to prepare your fabrics ahead of time, because when you're cutting small pieces, and in my case, I like to steam and I like to use starch. I use a vest press. I'll get to that in a minute. I want to introduce that steam and starch onto my fabrics to shrink those fibers. And if I don't, and I'm using steam or starch along the way as I'm building my block, those fibers are going to shrink. Your block's not going to turn out to be 6.5 inch unfinished. It'll be maybe 6 inch, and by the time you sew it into your quilt, it'll be 5.5 inches, and that's not going to work. So prepare your fabrics ahead of time by introducing steam and starch. And I saturate, I don't get it sopping wet or anything like that, but I get it, to a point where, it's shrinking up those fabrics. And then I'm pretty comfortable moving forward as I'm building my blocks and continuing using the steam and the starch. So that's the first thing. Most of the fabrics today don't run, but I don't trust them. I did some long arming for a lady recently, and she used some beautiful, they were new fabrics, and I put a little water-soluble marker on it, and I don't like to mark a lot of my quilts with that, but I do put little dots so I can kind of follow where I'm going. And when I sprayed them off, the red didn't show up on the top, it sunk through to the bottom. And so I saw this little red thing in the bottom. When you're working on somebody's quilt, color catchers are great. You can throw those in the wash. They'll catch all the colors and not have them go into other fabrics. But I use Retain, and that actually sets the color, the dyes in the fabrics. Some people say to do this first and then introduce color catchers later, or do both. But I just put this in and it seems to work fine. But you might, if you have some fabrics that you do think are questionable, just run some water on them and you'll know if they're gonna bleed on you or not. Yeah.
You use the Retain in the wash?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's instructions. I don't know, I can't see, but it's not much that you need to put in there. But I like this, and it sets those dyes so they don't. Moving on. Using the steam and best press before you make your first cut, that's very important. And then cutting yardage. a yard cut, salvage to salvage. So lots of wrinkles. You want to press all of that out, because if you don't press it before you cut it, you're going to be your fabric's not going to be cut exact for accuracy. So pressing it all out, and I also press the middle seam where on the fold, which is always right there. You want to press that, and then when you do cut, you will fold it back in half, and I recommend that you have a big cutting mat, or turn your cutting mat so it's this way. This is a, what is it, 24 by 36 inch mat. So in this case, I would, well, I can use it this way, and you want the fold close to you. I used to do it where the fold was up here. You really actually want the fold, and I don't press the fold back in. When I fold the fabric back after it's been pressed, there is no crease here, but I fold it and then place the fold next to me.
So why didn't you line it up to the salvage edge?
You know how you cut, I should have brought a strip. If you cut salvage to fold, sometimes you get where the fold is, the center of this, it'll get skewed. And I have done that a number of times, and I recently learned that if you cut from the fold out, you can maintain that right angle so it doesn't get off. Using my Quilter Select ruler, which, look, when it's on here, it doesn't shift, it won't move. Isn't that cool? I am going to line up the line of the ruler right along the fold, and then I can trim up this raw edge. I'm going to do that right now. Now I have a nice clean edge. Once it is trimmed up and square on that end, I turn it over, and I always use the line on my ruler to position onto my fabric. I'm going to make a 2.5 inch cut. So I place the 2.5 inch line on my ruler right on top of the fabric. I don't want it off the fabric, I want it right on top. If it's off the fabric, you might miss a thread or two. And when you're making Farmer's Wife blocks, every thread counts. So I would then go ahead and again line up this line on my fold with my 2.5 inch mark on top of the fabric, and go ahead and make my cut like that. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. Okay, rotary cutter, a new blade goes a long way. If you haven't changed out your blade, change it. It's amazing. I just changed mine. I'm like, wow, I love this blade. And I'm the kind that just keeps going, thinking, okay, and it decreases your accuracy. Things don't, and then you're cutting, that little spot that didn't get cut, and that warps everything. So just put a new blade in when it's time. 1/4 inch accuracy seam align is important. I don't use the scant seam at all. I use a true 1/4 inch. There's a product out by Eleanor Burns called So Straight. I line this little line here with my needle, so I know my needle is lined up right to this. And you put it just off your feed dogs. You don't want it right up to the needle, because your feed dogs will be under it. You want to set it right behind your feed dogs. And there's a couple little like 3M tape thingies that you can stick to the back, and they can come off, and they do get worn out after a while. And I've been using blue tape just lined out, because I take it off and I put it on, I take it off. But this will help keep your quarter. Take your little test sample out, measure it, make sure it's a 1/4 inch. And if you're like me, I get down to the end of my little block that I'm stitching, so I'm stitch, and then I tend to veer. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining that 1/4 inch all the way to the end of that unit, or whatever you're stitching. Because veering off is very easy. These can also be used to miter. You can line it up to miter, and we do a lot of half square triangles in this class, and instead of drawing a diagonal line on the back of your fabric squares to make half square triangle pressing, I always heat set my seams before I press them open. And heat setting is I apply heat to that seam, and then I press side, either the dark side, or if I'm doing opposing seams that go one way when you're setting up blocks, one way this way, one way that way. And when you put those units together, those seams nestle and interlock. So in a lot of my instructions, I will tell you how to press the seams, what directions to press them in, so you will create opposing seams, which is nice. Or sometimes you'll want to press your seams open, and that is to eliminate bulk, because you're going through too many layers of intersections, and it just gets really bulky, so you press the seam. There are some patterns out that suggest you press all your seams open, and as a long arm quilter, the only thing that I don't like about that is when I am long arming a quilt and all the seams are pressed open, if that particular client wants custom, I like to stitch in the ditch and create units in a block, like a star. I want to make sure that that star pops out, so I stitch in the ditch. But if the seams are pressed open, I can't stitch in the ditch because now I'm just stitching right through threads. That's fine. I will just move out 1/4 of an inch and maybe echo that line. I mean, it can be done. But that's something to think about when you are working on any quilt. How are you pressing your seams? How do you want your quilt to be quilted when it's all said and done? And does that impact the way you want it to be finished? So think about that when you're quilting. I use Best Press. I do not like the Best Press bottles. The handle, they squirt too fast and they start leaking. And somebody introduced me to this about 1.5 years ago. It's a Salon Select or something. It's on your paper. I got it at Sally's Beauty Supply. They have them. But when I posted it on my blog, everybody in the country went out and depleted all of Sally's little Best Press bottles. So if they don't have them, you can also find them online. You have to use it a few times. The pump, you've got to use it a few times, and then once you do, it just gives you a nice, even, thin mist spray instead of, here's this big blob of whatever. But look at that. Isn't that cool? Mm-hmm. It's really cool. So, and they're, I don't know, $6 maybe for this size. There's also a bigger size, but I find that's too big for my hand. So this size works well. You just have to fill it.
What size is that?
This size? Oh. I don't know.
Okay,
the other one is about this big.
Okay.
I think there's 2 sizes, and this is the smaller one. But yeah, that size. This is fairly new to me, and it's a wool pressing mat. Now this is not necessary. I'm not trying to sell you a bunch of stuff you're not going to need or want. You can. I mean, they're not inexpensive. I think this is like 30 some bucks. But when I'm pressing small blocks and pieces, the heat stays inside the wool and it makes pressing really nice. It opens up those seams very, very well, but it does trap moisture. So I put a towel on my ironing board because I don't want all that moisture coming through. So I put a towel down, then I lay this down, and then I press. I find that I don't need a whole lot of, I'm using steam, but I don't need a whole lot of this when I'm using this for the small blocks. It does have a smell like, wool, like you're washing a sweater, wool sweater, and it will, this is mine, and it will discolor, but that doesn't take away from the, using it. It works just fine. I just started using it about a month ago and find it's very helpful, but it's not, necessary. You do want to make sure when you're opening up your seams, or not opening them up, but opening them up or pressing them to one side, that you really make sure that whole seam is pressed. You don't want any little tucks or anything in a seam because, again, when you go to put the blocks together, it won't go together. The other product that I love, and where did it go? It's called Seam-A-Line. And this stuff is great, and it is in place of pinning, and especially when you're doing small blocks and pins can even distort your seams. This has got a little tiny needle nose tip. You run a little dab right along your seam line, and then you match your seam, 2 seams together, and you heat set it. So you want to heat set that, let it cool for a second. It doesn't take a long time, and those seams are matched up. You can take it over to your sewing machine and go ahead and stitch that. And it makes accuracy so nice. It's not a heavyweight glue. You don't even know you have it on there. When you pop those seams open, it pops open like nothing was there. So it's not something that has a big residue. The other thing I like about it is you can match stripes. If you want to match directional fabrics, this is a good way of doing that. Lighting is very important, especially, well, no matter what. I mean, I gotta have glasses now and I have to have extra lighting, and lighting is important, especially when you're doing small blocks. So keep that in mind. The other thing I wanted to share, this is something that you may have already seen a million times. Lori Holt from Be In My Bonnet has a little tutorial on her website on how to make these, but this is a great, I wish I could say I thought of it, but I didn't. But it's just batting, leftover batting on a foam board, and place the batting on top of the foam board, create a little binding, and then we just hot glued the binding around it. So it looks nice, but the great thing is, you can have all these little loose pieces, and you can set your block up, and to keep, all your little segments together, and you can carry it over to your sewing machine, and you don't have to, carry all this and then line it back up. You've got it right here. So making one of these, especially for the farmer's wife, and this is, let's see, how big is it? This one is 10 by 10, and it works fine. And these are great idea. So like that, is make sure your sewing machine is in good working condition. If it's been a while since it's been serviced or cleaned, it's time to go take it in and do that. Other thing that I do almost every, I don't even know how often, maybe if we're talking small blocks, every 4 to 6 blocks maybe, I will take my feed dog cover off, and I take this little, you can tell it's all like messed up now, but it was a paintbrush, and I go in there and I clean out that fuzz, and it's amazing how much fiber gets caught up underneath your feed dogs, and when they are not working well, they will pull and grab your tiny pieces, and and if it starts doing that, I just met with a group the other day, and one of our friends was complaining how her sewing machine was messing up, and I said, hey, have you cleaned out your feed dogs yet? And underneath that bobbin, you take the bobbin case out and clean that too. Oh no, I haven't done that. She did it, machine's working great. So something as simple as this is huge. So I bet you go home today, take off that cover, and you'll be like, oh. So but you can do that with the bobbin too. Take the bobbin case out, clean around that. You just want to be careful. A soft brush, paintbrush works fine, so you're not bending anything or shoving. And you want to be careful you're not shoving more lint down. You just want to kind of pick it up and get rid of it. So that's huge. And a new needle goes a long way. You want a nice sharp needle. Use 50 weight thread. Aurifil is usually what I use. 40 weight's a little bit heavier, thicker, and when you are making small blocks, that thread will build up, and so you want to use a 50 weight. This is the spine of the book. This is my spine of the book.
And my spine too.
And her spine of the book. At Office Depot, you can have them cut the spine off. They'll put this little spiral thing on, and then, oh, dang it. Oh, look at that. This is huge. Spiral binding.
Yes, it is. It's worth
Very
it.
class is not just about farming. It's also about learning so many techniques and tips. I go through the Magic 8, no waste flying geese, mirror image blocks. Can't even think of them. I don't know. Just a bunch of stuff. Some of them you'll like and you'll continue using, and some of them you go, yeah, that's fine, I'm never going to do that again. No waste flying geese for me is like, yeah, did it, don't really want to do that again. Some people love it. Some people absolutely love it. I just didn't like it, so. But I teach it. The other thing I want to mention, signing up for class is from class 1 through class 6, February through July. For the first 6 months, for 6 classes, take a break in August, and then September we'll start up and do class 7 through 12, which will end a year from now in February. But if you don't want to continue into class 7 and on, I do have a lap size quilt included in class 6 that you can turn all those blocks into an actual quilt. So you're not walking away going, okay, that was great, now what do I do? So,
How big of a, with all these blocks, how big of a quilt does that make?
size, let's see, in the back of the book, queen size is 83 by 103. And hers is the one that we'll be doing for all the blocks, is set on point with the setting triangles, so you'll learn how to set something on point. We will also go through in class 6, just briefly if people are stopping there, it's just a simple, not set on point, just straight here. We have a Farmer's Wife Facebook group that you can join if you want, and in there's a lot of files with tutorials that you can download.